Let's go over the second worksheet from this unit on transversals and see if we can solve for some angle measures using the properties of transversals and corresponding angles. Let's zoom in. The directions say find the measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 2. So they give us the information of this angle being 120 degrees. Now, angle 1 is vertical to that angle, and vertical angles are congruent, so angle 1 will also be 120 degrees. And angle 2 down here corresponds with the 120 degree angle up there, so corresponding angles when the lines are parallel are congruent. This is also 120 degrees. Let's move over to number 2. All right, angle 1 forms a linear pair with the 60 degrees. So these form a linear pair, which adds up to 180 degrees. So 180 minus 60 is 120. So angle 1 is 120 degrees. And angle 2 corresponds with the 60 degree angle. So it has the same measure. Angle 2 will be 60 degrees. Here we have a 45 degree angle, and it's actually makes a lot more sense to find angle 2 first. So we're going to find this angle. The lines are parallel. Angle 2 and the 45 degree angle are alternate interior angles, and if the lines are parallel, alternate interior angles are congruent. So this is 45 degrees. And then angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair, so they add up to 180 degrees. And if we subtract the 45 degrees, that is angle 2, we get 5, 3, 1. Angle 1 will be 135 degrees. Awesome. Here we go over here. Angle number 4. So we have a 40 degree angle right here, and angle 2 is forms a linear pair with a 40 degree angle, so they add up to 180 degrees. If we subtract the 40 degree angle, we are left with 140 degrees, and that's what angle 2 is. That's the measure of angle 2, and angle 1 and angle 2 correspond with each other, so they're both the top left angle, so they will both be congruent at 140 degrees. Number 5, angle 2 and the 75 degrees form a linear pair as well. So they add up to 180 degrees. And if we subtract out the 75 degree angle, we are left with 105 degrees. And that's what angle 2 is. And angle 1 is a consecutive exterior angle with the 75 degrees, or an alternate exterior angle with angle 2. And alternate exterior angles are congruent. So this one will be 105 degrees as well. Moving on to number 6. Angle 1 is a vertical angle with the 110 degrees. And angle 2 and angle 1 are consecutive exterior angles. Those are supplementary to each other. So they add up to 180 degrees. And you're left with 70 degrees left over. Moving on. Oh, now instead of numbers, they put variables. It's the same. We're gonna solve it the same way. We're gonna find the values of x and y, and x is a vertical angle with the 80 degrees, so x is also 80 degrees because all vertical angles are congruent. And y and the 80 degrees are corresponding angles, or you could think of it as x and y are alternate interior angles. Either way, they are congruent, so y will be 80 degrees. Nice. All right, here we have a right angle. This means it's 90 degrees. And that corresponds with x, so that means that x is also 90 degrees. and x and y are vertical, or y and the original right angle are alternate interior angles, which both ways mean that they are congruent, so y is also 90 degrees. In number 9, we have a 120 degree angle, and we have y, which is an alternate exterior angle. Alternate exterior angles are congruent to each other. Y is also 120 degrees. And x and y form a linear pair, so they add up to 180 degrees. And if we subtract from that the 120 degrees that is angle y, we can find what angle x is, and it is 60. So far, so good. Let's move on. Whoa. Here in number 10, we have a 65 degree angle right here, and y is a corresponding angle down here. That is also going to be 65 degrees because the lines are parallel and corresponding angles are congruent when the lines are parallel. And x and y are vertical angles, so they are also congruent. This will be 65 degree angle over there. And number 11, y is a vertical angle with 130 degrees. Vertical angles are congruent. So that is 130 degrees. And x and y are consecutive interior angles. Those angles are not congruent. They are supplementary. And it's pretty obvious that they're not congruent because y is obtuse and x is acute. But they are supplementary. So x plus y will add up to 180 degrees. And y is 130. So if we subtract those two, we can figure out what x is. And that is 50 degrees. Number 12. This looks similar to an earlier question. We have a right angle. And that corresponds with x down here being a right angle. So x is 90 degrees. Corresponding angles are congruent. And now x and y form a linear pair. And if x is 90 degrees, that means y also has to be 90 degrees. Because 90 plus 90 adds up to 180 degrees. Now we're just looking for the value of x, but there's a little bit more algebra involved with this one. So as we can see, there we have an 80 degree angle here, and we have two parallel lines. And 2x and the 80 degree angle form alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are congruent to each other. The giveaway is they're both slightly acute, so they're probably congruent. They can't be supplementary if they're both acute. So I know that these two will have the same measurement, but I don't know what x is quite yet. I'm going to make a simple equation for that. 2x will have the same measurement as 80 degrees. So if I divide both sides by 2, I should get x by itself, and 80 divided by 2 is 40, so x is 40 degrees. Number 14. Whoa, that jumped. They jump sometimes. We have a 120 degree angle up here, and then its corresponding angle down here is 3x. Corresponding angles are congruent, so 120 degrees is going to be congruent to 3x. So 3x equals 120. And to isolate x, if we divide both sides by 3, we will get x equals 40. Moving on to number 15, we have consecutive interior angles. These are not congruent to each other. We'll make one 2 lines, and the other one only has 1 line. They are clearly not congruent to each other. 110 is an obtuse angle, 2x appears to be an acute angle, and the lines are parallel to each other. But they are supplementary. Supplementary angles means that they add together to equal 180 degrees. So 2x plus 110 equals 180. And if we subtract 110 from both sides, we get 2x equals 70. And if we divide 2 by both sides, we get x equals 35. So the angle measurement for the 2x is 70 degrees, but x itself is 35. Here we have two corresponding angles. This one's 100. This one will also measure 100 down here. I'm not going to draw the line in because it will be ridiculous looking. But I know that they are congruent to each other. So 100 on top will equal x minus 10. Now to isolate x, we add 10 to both sides. So x will equal 110. And that makes sense. It's actually larger, but we're going to do a little bit of algebra before we actually solve for the answer. So 110 minus 10 is 100. Therefore, the two angles are 100 degrees. Number 17, we have some alternate interior angles, a 60 degree, and this one will also be 60 degrees, but it has an expression, and we're trying to solve for x in that expression. So I will set them equal to each other. 60 equals 3x plus 15. I don't need the parentheses anymore because it's all by itself on one side of the equal sign. The first thing I'm going to do is subtract 15 from both sides. So 60 minus 15 is 45. And dividing both sides by 3, I get x equals 15. So you substitute 15 back into that equation. 3 times 15 is 45. 45 plus 15 is 60. And the last one, we have one angle that is 102 degrees. And we have another angle which doesn't have any special relationship initially. That is 2x plus 12 degrees. But I can do something in between. This 102 degree angle should have the same measurement as this one because they correspond. So I'm going to rewrite this 102 down here. Those two corresponding angles are congruent to each other. And then the 2x plus 12 and the 102 form a linear pair, so those are supplementary, so they add up to 180 degrees. So I write the whole expression out and add to that 102. I'll keep the parentheses for now. I know that those two angles together will add to 180. Okay, there's no simplification we can do inside the parentheses, so we actually try to simplify outside, and I can add 12 to 102. 102 plus 12 is 114. Whoops. Okay, there's no more simplification we can do on either side, so I am going to subtract 114 from 180. I'm going to subtract it from both sides. On this side, we'll end up with just 2x, and that will equal 180 minus 114, which is 66. All right, one more step. 2x equals 66, so divide both sides by 2, x will equal 33. I hope this helps, and I hope that you're starting to really understand utilizing the properties of transversals.